Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. 015 Grammar Unit 4 Lesson 1 The past of verb be. The learning objectives. Dear students, by the end of this lesson you will be able to identify the past form of verb be, use verb be in affirmative and negative statements, use verb be in yes-no questions and WH questions. The past form of verb be, affirmative statements. Use was with the personal pronouns I, he, she, it, or with the singular form of nouns. Examples: I was absent. Notice here, after the subject pronoun I, we use the verb was. He was a famous football player. Again, after the subject pronoun he, we also use was. She was ill. Again, after she, we also use the verb was. It was cold. Again, after the subject pronoun it, we use was. Use were with the personal pronouns you, we, they, or with the plural form of nouns. Examples: you were at the dentist. Notice here, after the subject pronoun you, we use were. We were late. Again, after the subject pronoun we use were. They were at school. Again, after the pronoun they, we use also were. The past form of verb be, negative statements and contractions. Use was not or wasn't with the personal pronouns I, he, she, it, or with the singular form of nouns. Examples: I was not absent. Notice that we use the word not after the verb. Okay, after the verb. I was not absent. The contracted form, I wasn't absent. He was not at school. Again, we use the word not after the verb. He was not at school. The contracted form, he wasn't at school. She was not ill. Again, we use the negative word after the verb. She was not ill. The contracted form, she wasn't ill. It was not cold. Again, we use the negative word after the verb. It was not cold. The contracted form, it wasn't cold. Use were not or the contracted form weren't with the personal pronouns you, we, they, or the plural form of nouns. Examples: you were not at your desk. Again, we use the negative word after the verb. The contracted form, you weren't at your desk. We were not busy. Notice that the word not is used after the verb. The contracted form, we weren't busy. We weren't busy. They were not at the library. Notice again that the word not is used after the verb. They were not at the library. The contracted form, they weren't at the library. The past form of verb be, yes-no questions. Begin your yes-no question with was, with the personal pronouns I, he, she, it, or with the singular form of nouns. So start the question with the verb was plus the subject I, he, she, or it, and then complete your question. Examples: was I famous? Notice here that we start the question with the verb was. After that we put the subject. Was I famous? The answer: yes you were or no you weren't. Another example: was he at school? Again, we start the question with the verb. After that, we put the subject. Was he at school? The answer: yes, he was, or no, he wasn't. Another example: was she busy? Again, we start the question with the verb was. After that, we put the subject. Was she busy? The answer: yes, she was, or no, she wasn't. Another example. Was it cold? Again, we start the question with the verb was. After that, we put the subject. Was it cold? The answer, yes, it was, or no, it wasn't. Begin your yes-no question with where, with the personal pronouns you, we, they, or the plural form of nouns. So, we start the question with where plus the subject. The subject could be you, we, or they, or a plural form of nouns, and then complete your questions. Examples. Were you at the dentist? Notice here that the question starts with the verb where. After that, we have the subject, and then complete your question. Were you at the dentist? The answer, yes, I was, or no, I wasn't. Another example. Were we good? Again, we start with the verb where. After that, we put the subject. Were we good? Yes, you were. No, you weren't. Another example. Were they at the library? Again, we start with the verb. After that, we put the subject. Were they at the library? The answer, yes, they were, or no, they weren't. So, in yes-no questions, we begin with the verb was or were plus the subject plus the subject. After that, complete your questions. The past form of verb be WH questions. Begin your WH question with a question word like what, where, when, who, why, how, what time, etc. Then use the same word order as in yes-no question. Remember that in yes-no question, we start with the verb plus the subject. So, in WH questions, we begin with the WH word, plus the verb was or where plus the subject and then complete your question. Examples. Why were you late? Notice here that the WH question starts with a question word. After that, we put the verb, then we put the subject. Why were you late? The answer, because I was asleep. Another example. Where was he? Again, we start with the question word, then we have the verb. After that, we need the subject. Where was he? The answer, he was at school. Another example. Why was she absent? Again, we start with the question word, followed by the verb. After that, we put the subject and we complete the question. Why was she absent? The answer, because she was sick. Another example. How was the weather? Again, we start with the question word, followed by the verb. After that, we have the subject. How was the weather? Answer, it was cold. Another example. Where were you yesterday? The question, again, starts with the question word, followed by the verb. After that, we have the subject, and then complete your question. Where were you yesterday? The answer, we were at the library. Another example. When were we born? Again, the question starts with the question word. After that, we have the verb, then the subject, and then complete your question. When were we born? You were born in 1990. Who were they? Again, start your question with a question word, followed by the verb, and then put the subject. Who were they? They were my cousins. So, in WH questions, we start with a question word, followed by the verb. After that, we put the subject, and then complete your question. Thank you for listening.